Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the 10-minute book talk, where three best-selling authors talk all things bookish with you for 10 short and sweet minutes every week. So you'll note there's, in fact, only three of us today. There was supposed to be four of us. Susan Wiggs was supposed to be our guest today, and we were going to talk about her wonderful new book, Wayward Girls. But you may or may not have heard that Susan had a bicycling accident that was really very serious. She is doing better, but she, in her classic Susan hilarious way, wrote me a note and said, so when we're supposed to be you're interviewing me, I'm actually going to be waking up from surgery with my jaw wired shut, which would make it difficult to do the interview. So she is doing better, but we want to support her and her wonderful book. So we've just decided to record a little podcast without Susan here, telling you about her great new book, Wayward Girls. I got to read an early copy of this and I really enjoyed it. Let me tell you a little bit about it. It is set in upstate New York, Buffalo area, during the Vietnam era. And there is a really vibrant, wonderful character, a young teenage girl named Marin, and she is a daughter of Irish immigrants. And her mother has remarried, her father has died, her mother has remarried, and her stepfather is not a good guy. And so her mother has to make a really incredibly difficult choice and sort of sends her away to this home for wayward girls that was one of the Magdalen homes. Now, you may have heard about the infamous Magdalen laundries in Ireland. I was not aware that the Magdalen homes also existed in the United States, quite a few, for girls who were wayward or in trouble. The thing about Marin is she's not wayward. She's not in trouble, but here she is in this situation. She is spirited, she is feisty, and she comes across a group of about 8 other characters who are all there for various reasons. She's going to be the ringleader, and her presence there is going to have a great impact. And together, they are going to form a really unlikely bond and solve a lot of problems. That's about as good an elevator pitch as I could do. I loved this book. And by the way, so is everybody else loving this book. Is that not right, Katherine?
Yeah, no, that is true. For the 10-minute book talk, my job is to read the reviews and put some really great ones on that tiny little font that you can read on your phone. And sometimes they have to be cut, but here are 2 for this book that I thought were fabulous. So, quote, after decades of bestsellers, you know what? It's going to be so much easier if I do this. After decades of bestsellers, Wayward Girls might be Susan Wiggs' opus, a gut-wrenching story of survival, friendship, and justice. Masterful. And that's Robert Dugoni, who is the New York Times bestselling author of The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell. Then another one of our absolute favorites, Christina McMorris, the New York Times bestselling author of Sold on Monday and The Girls of Good Fortune, said, Susan Wiggs is at the top of her game. Through skillful weaving of an endearing cast, Wayward Girls displays the power of sisterhood to survive, conquer, and ultimately heal from the most harrowing of times. An evocative tale packed with resilience and secrets that kept me reading late into the night. I loved it. So,
It's true.
review.
I think that really sums it up. No, each character is really distinct. You're going to learn a lot of history along the way, which is why, I love historical fiction. I love finding out things I didn't know about, but you are going to be so invested in each of these characters and her journey and her success. And I agree. I think Susan was at the top of her game. I've read a lot of her books, and this is my favorite so far. So yeah.
All right. Well, we here at the 10-minute book talk, every time we interview an author, we ask them one last question, and that is, what is bringing you joy today? And so, because Susan isn't with us, we wanted to say that what brings us joy is to support fellow authors. And Susan is a fantastic fellow author. She's an excellent and talented author, but she's also fantastic at being extremely supportive of the author community. She has personally supported all of our books and us as authors. And so we want, today, it would bring us joy if you walked out, and it would bring Susan joy if you walked out and bought a copy of her book. So buy a copy for yourself, buy a copy for your best friend. You guys will really enjoy it, and it would also bring Susan joy as she's recovering. So thank you so much for joining us. What'd you say?
Great book club pick too. There's lots
great book club pick. That's
right?
True.
Yes. So very good.
Nominate for your book club.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes,
Hey,
love that.
so let's have the three of us say a big wave. Susan, we love you and get better.
We love you.
We
Get
know
better
you
soon.
Get
will.
better. And we'll see you next week. All of you who are watching for 10 more 10-minute book talk fun. We'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.